All right, guys, welcome to Rift Insight Season 1, Episode 6. If you guys are watching this as a VOD much later on, just like the video, comment down below is all I ask. That's pretty much it. And for a little bit of insight into the League of Legends world, there's not much news going on right now, other than the fact that I Will Dominate posted that Pobelter is getting benched for the final week of the LCS 2020 summer split for CLG. And yeah, people are definitely questioning the move because Pobelter is their best player. So that's also something we'll talk about as the show unfolds. And this week, we're actually joined here by a guest. It's like the first guest we've ever actually had on. It's actually the other guy from the other podcast, and that's Hedgie. How you doing, man?
Terribly okay. Pretty good, you know.
So,
I'm going to use the same response as before.
So for the people who don't know who you are, who the hell are you?
Well, you know, I might call myself, I guess, a bit of an analyst. I'm a coach in OCE for a team. I've been in the coaching area of Order Academy, and now I'm coaching a team that's pretty much going for scouting grounds. So, you know, trying to get into, OPL or OCS. And yeah, so I'm a coach over here, and you know, we might not be as good as NA, but, you know, NA is not very good to begin with, right? So we do our best. But yeah, I'm a massive C9 fan as well, so I do a lot of analysis for their games and, you know, trying to talk to see what they're actually doing with their drafts currently.
I don't know how you even go to the group and talk to these people. So many people come up with the laziest excuses in the world. Holy crap. This guy said Blabber was the best jungler due to, like, stats, and I was like, yeah, that's, you know, not, like, untrue. The issue here is that stats are not gameplay, and like 5 people like this comment. I'm like, are these 5 people retarded? Like, what? Give me those what are those matchups? Like jungle proximity. How long was that jungler in your lane? Like, people are just so dumb. It just blows my mind. I was like, stats are not gameplay. Do I have to like literally like explain it to you in like in a book dictionary about what I actually mean? He's like, well, stats are gameplay. They come for the game. I'm like, yes, you moron. That is true, but that's not reflective of actual champions moving in the game. Like, do I have to spell it out for you? Like, what is this? What are these bronze people?
That's aggressive right there, man.
What are you talking about? I'm nice. Come say hi. But how are you guys doing today? How you doing, Mr. Buff Guy?
That's me. Is that me?
I think so.
No, I'm pretty sure he's talking to me.
No, I'm doing pretty good right now. I mean, I'm still trying to catch up on a few of the games since I didn't get to catch all of them recently. But for the most part, I watched like 90% of the games now.
Sorry, guys. There's Vin Diesel outside if you hear that. But, so let's go over CLG first. So, CLG, I think, by consensus, are the worst team in the league. I thought that them having Pobelter would have put them in the 8th spot, and it actually did for a little bit there. And they were actually at 4th place about a few weeks ago when we were at, like, week 6. And then right after that, they just started losing a bunch of games. Like, it's not really a hot take if you tell me that Dig and IMT are better than CLG. I would rather have Dig or IMT make the playoffs over CLG, honestly. That's just me, you know?
No, I think... You want to go? I didn't know.
No, it's all good. I was going to make a joke.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Always making jokes. Never...
I feel like CLG started off actually surprisingly a little bit stronger than Dignitas did, and both IMT did. But with the addition of Lorem and Insanity in the mid lane for Immortals, and what's it called, and Dignitas adding a few other people, because with the addition of Dardoch, I don't think he's like the most amazing jungler, but he did transition their playstyle from kind of try to scale into late game to try, and then hopefully you don't lose before then, to at the very least try and make stuff happen in the early game. I mean, now essentially they do moderately okay in the early game and then never do anything again. Like, they just sit there and let the game end. So I'm not sure which one's better, but I think that CLG might be the worst team because, again, if they're removing Pobelter at that, there's absolutely no way they're the best team. Like, they're not the worst team. Like, that's the only competent player on that team.
Hedgie, what do you think?
No, but I think my big thing... Oh, you here?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. I was just going to say, like, they've lost 6 in a row, so they're probably in the worst form in the league, but you could make an argument for them probably not being the worst, but yeah, they're pretty bad. Like,
yeah, I mean, I mean, it's not like any of the bottom, like in EU, I feel like even when SK I mean, what's his name? Schalke was like at the very bottom. They had at the very least made aggressive decisions and stuff, and just it would all fall apart because they were dumb. Like these bottom teams in NA just don't know what they're doing. Like they literally just kind of sit there and hopefully, like at the very least, hope the game doesn't end before they can make some sort of aggressive play around the map or like win a team fight on an objective. Like there are almost no positives to what I would say is like the play style of both. I mean, of all IMT and all these players. They just.
Did you see the game? Did you see the game where he faced what was it? It was Team Liquid versus CLG. Ruin went for an all-in, died under tower, and was completely useless the whole game.
I saw all of those games that he did that this season. It was not a singular occasion.
Oh my god. I don't know what, because like they're terrible, but at least they're attempting to team fight, at least out of bad situation.
I mean, every team is going to attempt to team fight eventually. If you're getting beat down, you're eventually going to have, like, the worst team, like, obviously the worst game of the entire season was Dig and, what team was it they faced that one time where they actually, like, three
Immortals?
of them had a, was it Immortals? No, I think it was was it FlyQuest? They had, it was 3 players with no kill participation, no deaths. Like, they somehow managed to not actually, like, participate in the game, and it seems like the mentality of the team transitioned so drastically when they added Viper. Like, that's my biggest problem with it, is that they not only added Viper, but they started, like, instead of doing these kind of weird ganks that Dardoch literally didn't really do anything besides gank past the early game. He just constantly ganked, and then they just hopefully win off their leads. Now they just look for skirmish. They're trying to copy some of the top teams. They look for skirmishes in the top.
Are you talking about Dig? Okay, so okay, we'll talk about Dig.
Yeah,
so looking at Dig right now, they're just like, okay, how do I say this without trying to be mean? Because I know there's people that are gonna watch these videos eventually go like, oh my god, he was shitting on my team. Okay, so Dig are some games they're trying, like in the EG game, they're trying. Then there's also some games where they're just giving over everything. So like it's very hard to judge on what day, what team there actually are. Because they have Dardoch, who is their whole early game. And then you also have Phoenix, who is... I don't think Phoenix is a bad mid laner. The issue with Phoenix is that he's so exploitable. Like, he's always going to play aggressive. He's not going to ever ward for his jungler. You know, he's always susceptible to gains because he constantly plays forward. He's not a player you can rely on because he's never going to take precautions, so his aggression is never it's always an issue where the team falls apart too, because like they're usually getting behind by him either dying or the rest of their team just falls apart consistently, you know. But that's just me so far with the Dig mid laner. Now, I still kind of understand why the Dig fans are mad, because they took out Lorlo and it didn't really feel like they got anything, you know, with Viper. You know, like, they didn't really get anything with him. They actually got a worse player. If you're really looking at it, they actually just got someone worse. And then the bot lane's been their best part, but the bot lane can't do anything if the top side of the map is just bad, you know. Like, Dardoch, he doesn't really do anything outside of, let's say, 23 minutes into the game. Like, his mind just completely falls apart if his team's not ahead. So that is kind of what their whole team is. So you have inconsistent top and mid, then you have good bot lane and a jungler that's trying to get their mid laner over the hump, which I don't think is really good so far, but I would still rather have them in playoffs over CLG. Please have them in Dig, swear to God, please make it over CLG. They are actually much better, and that's not saying much. Good God, please Dig make playoffs.
Jesus, what is this roster though? Like, why are teams still signing Dardoch? Like, are they that desperate? Like, surely there's someone in Academy who's never played. Just put him in. Give him a chance, man, over Dardoch.
I don't see any good junglers. Like, honestly, I think the weakest role in the entirety of the NALCS is the jungle, because I don't see a single competent one inside this role. Like, as much as I want to say just throw somebody in there, like, if we don't have anybody in the LCS, I almost don't see anybody happening in the Academy either. Like, I think it all comes down to a coaching. If we want to develop players, we have to get coaches who understand the jungling role, because it seems like that's the biggest problem right now, is junglers not knowing what to do inside of the pro scene. It's like solo queue tendencies trying to translate onto the professional scene, and it's just
yeah, and that translates to champions as well. Like, all the champions that you see in, like, and kind of changed like slightly in the last month or so, I've noticed, but definitely like the first split, which is filled with it, were like why is like Rek'Sai being drafted like every second draft, and he was like really high prioritized, and like Lee Sin, you could argue definitely like isn't as strong as a lot of junglers, and I mean he has a bit of flexibility, but he's still like a real solo queue focused champion. Rek'Sai, Elise, well, what a bloody flip! I'm gonna
I don't even understand it.
You know, yeah, why is Elise picked? Like all these sort of early game bloody solo queue type champions that I don't understand why they're being picked when there's so many better ones available, and it was really confusing. And yeah, sure, you've seen that in the lanes and stuff a lot, but I feel like jungle was the main position that really just had those solo queue champions for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, it's the big thing about it. It's all these. I feel like it's the players themselves coming out with these things because Rek'Sai does somewhat counter the Lee Sin in terms of just ability to skirmish in the early game because he can interrupt most of the team stuff. But I think, again, it's not a big enough reason for me to say that he's able to be picked because, again, Lee Sin scales substantially better than Rek'Sai does. Like, even if you can interrupt pretty much all of his abilities, it doesn't matter. Like, I think the reason I don't like these picks is because if to be one of these picks, players that pick these like top tier, like some these Elises and stuff, there's only a few teams in the world that I think can actually pull them off consistently. Which is like the Invictus Gaming and all that stuff. You have to be somebody who, once they get a lead, knows how to close out the game. There's no one in the LCS like that. There's no team that is hyper aggressive in the early game and able to continually push their lead to an advantage and close out the game with that. So I think they should just settle. Well, yeah, C9 in the past. It's unfortunate. I mean, I don't even know if Blabber can play those picks, to be fair. I haven't really seen him play him too often, but I'm sure he could. They're not the most complex champions. But again, I don't think there is a team in NA who should be putting most of the carry potential on the jungler because it seems to be the weakest role that we have. So
yeah,
I don't know.
No,
I mean, okay, so in terms of that, I mean, you have to kind of factor in the teams are going to play towards the meta. So we want players to not play a certain play style. So giving them certain champions would be a good idea. But now when I watch certain games, why are we just randomly picking Malphite? Where does that come from? What is that for? Like, can someone explain it to me? Unless I'm just actually stupid. Where does just Malphite ever come from? Malphite just is randomly meta. Oh, I know why. Because he's simple. Bad top laners can win with him. Does Malphite have ult? No, then you can go in. If Malphite has ult, your ADC better not have flash because ADC is going to flash it. It's like sort of those mind games, but I don't think Malphite is really going to do anything in terms of NA, because if you're going to international competition, I don't think my God, play Malphite against some of those Chinese top laners, you are going to get absolutely curb stomped. Like, oh Lord, because they're using it as a champion to shut down something, but it's so situational to use Malphite. I just don't think he translates well into competitive unless you build a comp around him. But that's just me personally. So,
what would you say would a comp around a Malphite be like? Like, what do you mean? Like
Yasuo, Gragas, stuff like that?
I don't think Yasuo would ever, like, I don't know. I've never really appreciated most of it. Like, I did like what's his name from Cloud9? I did like it when he played it, but that's pretty much the only time I've seen it successfully used.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't like Yasuo in general. It takes a lot of like.
Because you have the knockup compositions. You have Gragas, Yasuo, knockup, Malphite. You could throw in there.
Really have to put that many knockups. It's definitely a capability because it gives you a lot of ability to engage. But I mostly like hedge. I feel like you didn't like the Rek'Sai Elise in
yeah, no.
If you didn't like it, it's fine.
I want to ask Hedgie, since you're a coach, since you always talk about draft, this man will literally have an 8-paragraph structure on draft. What is a picture-perfect ideal draft for you, since you are a coach? What is your basis for a draft? Do you like going for, well, it depends on what side you're on. So let's say you're on blue side, right? Let's say you're on blue side. What are you drafting?
Well, I mean, it depends. For one, like, it depends on the team, because like different teams are good at different things, right? So like TSM, for example, I think they're the best when they play those like pushing style comps, so they play a bit slower. I don't think they're good at team fighting or like, big macro calls and that sort of stuff. God. They like dominated us when they slowed down the game, where they pushed the lanes, where they got set up around objectives. Yeah, exactly. And I think they're good at that sort of style. And then C9's good at, your early game team fighting, all that sort of stuff. But for me, ideally, I'm trying to pick up the Karma. I'm trying to pick up the Graves on that first slot. I think they're just completely broken right now, particularly Karma, where she can be flexed multiple positions. and she can go multiple builds, and she's good at every stage in the game. And that's going to change when Cherky gets nerfed, but she can shove early and get lane pro. And then in the mid games, she's got the shields for the team fights, got a lot of damage from the team fights, and then late game, she's just a monster. One of the best scaling champions in the game with the shielding she can provide. Basically a bloody extra teammate with the type of shielding she can provide. And then Graves is just, in my opinion, one of the best jungles right now. Probably the best, I think. I'm not sure if I'm forgetting anyone else. Yeah, I think him.
Trundle.
Carthus is probably up there. I think Trundle's not even top 5. Why are they picking a stupid champion? He's okay, Trundle, but again, teams don't pick him in the right spots, which kind of makes him useless. But yeah, I think I'd be going for Graves. Karma, Volibear's another one that I think is really strong right now, and the fact that you can flex him adds to that as well. But it is very dependent on, again, what your team is good at. I think still mostly the.
What if I'm trying to play for side lanes? Like, what if I'm trying to play for side lane pressure? Because there's a lot of teams that do that. In the LEC, teams like Origin, teams like Mad Lions, they always play for side lane pressure. We don't, but in NA, guys, if you're watching, NA does not play for side lane pressure. They're always going down mid. Constantly. Yeah. Nobody plays for side lanes, and I'm just like, what the hell? Why is no team in NA play for side lanes? It's constantly. It's always run it down mid. In the C9 Golden Guardians game, you know what Golden Guardians did? Like, we're winning, all right? We could play for the other lanes that are also winning. Nope, just run it down mid. Like, what is that?
I don't know, man.
Are
you talking about bruisers?
It depends.
Are you talking like somebody playing Fiora? Like, what do you mean by side lanes?
Split pushes, like champs like Sion, champs like Ryze, things like that are really good inside lanes that create pressure. Things like even Yorick is also a good side laner.
I don't think anybody's. I don't really like Yorick right now, man.
But these are just examples I'm throwing out there. Hi, Nick.
Is it easier if I just use my team as like an example for
go
ahead. Sorry, because it's like hard to explain it for like any team because obviously teams are going to have different ways of looking at it. But yeah, in terms of my team, so we're a bit more like that TSM style. We're a bit slower. We play well when we play slow. We like pushing lanes. We like getting lane priority. So my job as a coach is to get comps where they do push in, they do have winning lane matchups, they do have early control, maybe not early controls and just killing the enemy, but just, not allowing the enemy to, kill you and get objectives and get leads, and then trying to make that comp also scale. So like Caitlyn Karma, for example, is really good for me because like Karma is going to provide the scaling, they're going to provide the push, they're going to win lane most of the time. But at the same time, Caitlyn's a pretty decent scaling ADC. Karma's great at scaling. So those sorts of champions. I had opponent pick Jax against me a few days ago, and we picked Jax. Oh, no, they picked Camille, against me, and I picked Jax.
Oh, yeah, because Jax and Camille are actually making their way back, actually, now.
Well, Jax just got buffed right now.
Yeah, and Jax scales extremely well, but also wins that lane against Camille. So, like, Camille never wins the game at any point. So you want to try to do that.
What about champs like Set, champs like Kennen?
Yeah,
because Kennen's good in side lanes too. Kennen and Set are also good in side lanes. Just depends on how your matchup goes. Broken Blade played Aurelia. That was going really well for him too. Because Licorice got in front of him, blew its flash, and the wave pushes into him. I was like, you lost the lane. Lane phase is over at that point.
I hated
that
game.
We banned Set a lot. Because he's very good flexibility. We don't really have too many people on our team that can play him. So he's a very good champion against us. We haven't really seen too much Kennen. But, like, I just think Kennen's not very good. I don't know. Every time I see him pick him, he gets countered by Sars or doesn't do anything. Like, he's just... I don't know. I don't like him, in my opinion. I think he's kind of very, very good at, like, one or two things. But other than that, he's kind of useless.
Okay. So, what about for, like, mid lane? How would you play for mid and jungle priority?
Mid's interesting right now because I think it's... They're either picking, your LeBlancs, your early game pressure, and then there's a lot of champions like TF and Galio that came up in, last month or so where they're trying to get to the side lanes and roam. And you hadn't seen that too much up until now. And then, you still do see your control mages and stuff, but it's very flexible. I think it's really just what your mid laner specifically likes playing a lot of the time. And, you can see in NA, I mean, there's so many different mid laners being picked. And I typically like to go with Zoe. I think Zoe's really good. I think she has good scaling, and then she can shove in lanes and be really oppressive into certain matchups. We also like going for Echo a lot as well, but that's kind of a champion that's specific to the player on my team. So,
and now we get to Cloud9. So Cloud9, if you guys didn't actually know, Cloud9 are actually now 2-5 in the back end of the summer split. And fun fact, this week was the first time they've actually went 0-2 since 2018 summer. They've actually only went 1-1 since then. That's crazy, isn't it?
it's pretty impressive.
So
honestly.
C9 lost to 100 Thieves. People are like, okay, whatever. It's just a one-off game. It's best of ones. They lose to EG. It's like this is like kind of concerning. Then they lose to who else? They lose to TSM, Golden Guardians. Like
And then they lost to Liquid.
Well, I mean, see the Liquid game. I think they got mad at the Liquid game because against Team Liquid, they actually weren't losing. They actually weren't even losing at all until
a lot of them come down to like a singular mistake. My big thing about if we look at the TSM game, I think that was I'm pointing it mostly on Licorice, like for the most part. I think there's a few times where what's his name, Blabber engaged a little bit too far ahead and he wasn't able to really follow up on it because he was too far back. But I mean, Licorice genuinely never got into a place where he was able to really follow up on decent engage. Like he was always too far back from the front line until like the late game. Like if you saw the very last fight, that was a really good engage from Licorice, but at that point in time, it's just too late. Like he doesn't have enough damage. There's not like literally no one else has the items to be able to kill off the team.
Is it drafting that's hurting C9? Because I don't think the drafts are terrible.
I think the last game, the draft was the worst.
You think so? You think that? Like I feel like they really could have made that pull off, but I mean they just genuinely played it so poorly. Like I think like Licorice genuinely, it doesn't seem like he knows how to play Cannon. Like that was horrible. Like
I mean, why would he get in front of Aurelia? He blows his flash.
It wasn't even a big problem. Like the big thing about it is he never really fully positioned properly. Like it just seemed like he positioned him as a squishy because Cannon's squishy, when in reality he has to play more so in front of the front line, like or towards the front line so he can follow them up. Like he never engaged first in any of the team fights. He was always following up on an engage by Volibear. He was always a little bit too late to be able to like actually get a full off. Like if you look at the Dragon fight, right after the Dragon fight, Volibear got an extremely good ult off, and Kennen never actually got to anybody. He never. And then
Demonte made the game-winning play when he killed two of them, and then they got Dragon, then they got Baron. I was like, I mean,
it wasn't a game-winning play. They were out of cooldowns. They couldn't have got out. Like that was just it at that point. They're out of cooldowns. There's no ults left. Volibear's stuck in the middle of the team because he ulted into them. Like they were just gonna lose that fight regardless.
So my thing with C9 is that they've actually never had a slump this whole year, all the way up until right now. So that's the issue, because this week they face Dig and they face CLG. So you'd assume they go 3-2-0, right? They could still fight for first. It just depends on how the TL and TSM games go. That's just pretty much all it is.
Fourth.
FlyQuest are 10-6.
Oh, they're not far at all. They're only 2 games up, huh? No, 1 game up.
So let's go to the C9 draft here. Actually, let me show you guys my screen right here. Oh, hey, Nick. Yeah, we'll get your comment in just a moment. Let me just pull up this right now for them right here.
I think you have the play bad as well.
So you have the C9 draft right here. Let me bring it back right here. So there you go. This is the draft. I mean, giving Blabber Trundle, I don't think it's the worst idea in the world, because he wasn't really playing, well on Lee Sin these last games they were actually losing though. But that's just me personally.
Who are you talking about, Blabber?
Yeah, because every time they gave him the Lee Sin, he'd get early game leads, but he's not exactly translating it into anything else. He's like with Lee Sin, you're supposed to be constantly pushing the pace of the game, but it felt like he wasn't doing. Yeah.
Okay.
So C9 ban Karma, Caitlyn, Galio, Twisted Fate, LeBlanc. Golden Guardians ban Kale, Shen, Nidalee, Sona, and Olaf. Hedgie not liking that one. He's just like, these teams are trash.
Olaf and Nidalee, like what?
They're banning away from closer. They're banning away from closer. They're like, no, you're gonna carry too hard, so we'll take away from you. I'm just kidding.
Graves gets through this whole draft. It's so funny.
I understand though.
So I've never liked Nautilus with Aphelios, because I feel like Aphelios is just a hyper carry late game scaling champion.
And but Nautilus is because Mr. Buff guy. He would know about the support priority because Nautilus is like literally first picked or banned for most supports right now. You
It's
know,
just because he has so much.
He's also into Morgana.
Yeah, you cannot do anything into Morgana. That's the worst part, honestly. I think Morgana is like the reason I ban Morgana essentially every single time is because I play only 8 supports, and she just makes everybody have no fun. She engage on Morgana, she shields herself, and then she Qs you, and you lose the trade. If you engage on the ADC, unless she's just completely just not paying attention, she shields them, they walk out, and you lose the trade again. Like there's nothing you can do. So essentially, you have an engaged support who's going to be building tankish, but it's not going to be as tanky as the other people, and he's not going to have as much of an like. I feel like did they pick the Morgana first? I don't remember. Like what happened?
Man, let me. I'll have to go back to the actual VOD. Let me go back to the VOD. Let me go to C9.
I don't 100% remember the ban phase of this one.
I don't remember the ban phase actually.
But again, Nautilus can make any lane win just purely based off the fact that supports essentially dictate the entire pace of the game. But Kalista with a Morgana, there's no way that Nautilus can take control of any of the bot side fights now, because again they can't. Aphelios can't ever win a duel against Kalista. Morgana essentially makes it to whoever, if she's in the position to where she's able to. Why are you on your Facebook page, man?
What the heck? Hedgie's here. Hedgie's rejoined us.
Yeah. Sorry.
It's okay.
I was changing I was listening to it. Yeah, like I don't think it's good into Morgana. I don't think Nautilus is amazing overall, but like he's okay into something. But I think with Aphelios...
Here we go. Here's the draft phase. No, because like some of the games, people upload them longer, so you see the draft phase. So let's
China 100% prioritizes it because he's one of the best early game engaged champions. Just because he has one of the highest base damages out of most supports. Like the only really supports that you can play with similar damage. Like I don't even know if there are any. Maybe Tom Kent's melee wise, but I mean you don't play Tom Kent's like that, so it doesn't matter.
So let's speed.
Yeah, it's more for me that like Aphelios scales and Nautilus is early game, so like it's kind of counterintuitive pairing them together.
What's up, Jarrett?
That makes sense.
How you doing, Jarrett?
Yeah, I know. I understand.
So by the way, C9 went 0-2 against 2 teams on the upswing. To be fair, we're gonna get to TSM and Team Look in just a moment. So I don't know C9 takes set first. Golden Guardians take Kalista Volibear. Then C9 take Aphelios. Okay.
They should take Ezreal Volibear, and they should then counter. Aphelios isn't really amazing into Ezreal. But you probably could, if they took Ezreal, you could take Syndra on 2, and then
C9 take Nautilus. Okay.
They did take Nautilus first. I see.
They took Nautilus for first rotation, so...
Okay. So that's a good counter pick to take Morgana. I think on 3, I believe, is where they take it. I'm not 100% sure about that, though.
Morgana is just genuinely extremely good in what they're called. Because I feel like they tried to pick the Nautilus to try and counteract the early game aggression that Kalista is able to deal out, because there's absolutely no way. Unless, like, specifically Morgana is, like, one of the few champions that can dictate the... or change the pace at which who's going to be aggressive or not, because Nautilus usually for the most part against every other support, because supports like ADCs really don't have the damage to be able to turn the tide of the lane in comparison to what the supports can deal out. So I'm assuming the reason they picked this was because they wanted to be able to early game aggressive team fight. And I don't know. I mean, at this point in time, with the addition of like a Volibear, there's absolutely no way Cloud9 can contest anything in the bot side.
Niski even got Zoe, and Zoe's been like one of his best champions like all year, essentially.
Yeah, I mean they have a better scale. Wait, let me see. Who did they
Zoe's
pick again?
awful into their comp.
Okay, so
yeah, Zoe can
Zoe's
only
like awful into their comp. By the way.
Zoe can only kill like 2 of them, and one of them is Syndra, who's gonna insta burst her if she tries to get that close.
and then there's Scion and Volibear, who's just gonna block all that shit.
I mean, yeah.
And one of them's Morgana, you can give spell shield for the...
Yeah, you can actually... I hated it when you could actually... When Zoe was released, you couldn't even cleanse it. It literally just stuck on you no matter if she landed it. It was the worst. But now it's like, even if she hits it, if the Morgana gets in range to E it, she can't E it. They don't even get stuck. Like, it's worthless at that point in time to pick Zoe, because most of the time you have to try and get lucky and get it on a carry, so even if they flash out, they're dead. But with Morgana, if you're in a team fight, Zoe can't get anybody, because Morgana is always going to be there to shield somebody.
But she can only shield one person. Usually, most comps have 2 squishies.
What I'm saying is, you can't you can't sleepy trouble bubble 2 people. Like she can only do it once, and Morgana.
Ryan needs to do that.
Yeah, let's just make Zoe better.
Imagine the bubble goes to one person, and then if your next man splashes and hit the other one, now they're sleepy. God damn, it'd be amazing.
Just make her broken. That's exactly.
My question is though.
Okay.
Like, why don't they know Sven can play Syndra? Like, they know he can play mages. So why not pick Syndra on 2? You can flex it between mid and bot. It's a safe blind, and then take Blubber's jungler on 3rd, because then Set can still technically flex a support. And then they're not going to pick the Morgana likely. They're going to pick like Thresh or Nautilus to pair with the Callista. And then on 4, you can counter their support. And sure, the jungler might get countered then, but like it's not as bad as what they've ended up with, where you're getting the Nautilus and their bot lane just completely becomes useless.
Nick says, I wonder if we get a Sona Morg lane against picks like Blitzcrank. Can Sona Morg actually work against Blitz?
I mean, they wouldn't get hooked, but I just don't like Sona.
He says Sona Morg sounds completely unkillable, nice catch potential, and both have insane ult synergy, and it doesn't have the weaknesses against engaged Sona Lux.
I mean, what if they have a tank on the enemy team? How do you kill them now?
That's the issue.
Big thing about it is that Sona just doesn't have the sustained damage to be able to deal with tanks. And it would be a really extremely niche pick to where you'd be able to pick them because, again, you're not able to kill tanks. Like, bruisers like Graves would be able to double kill them, like, almost alone because they don't have that innate tankiness.
You would have to... Yeah.
Like, they just don't have anything to stop. At that point in time, are you going to pick, like... I don't even know what you could pick around.
You would have to pick that into specific compositions.
I just would never like that because you pick ADC mid like Ezreal. I mean, I don't think Ezreal. I don't know. Does he play well into any of the competent mid, like the consistent mid? Like the
Ezreal?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Like, I don't know. I don't think sustain. Like again, maybe you don't need to have sustain because they have a bunch of like squishies. But even then, I mean, sustain just scales better all around. I think Sona is not somebody I would prioritize as because I have a Morgana I can play her because she's just not better than an ADC. Like I think I like Sona Taric back like seasons ago when they were able to make it work because you have an extremely tanky dude because now he doesn't have to build support items. He has a really good income because Taric with tank items with good like income is one of the like best scaling tanks in the game. But like you don't really get that too often. You don't really have many options.
I think it can work with Lux.
Maybe. I mean,
I think Sona Lux can work. I think Sona Soraka would make even more sense.
I guess you could do that. I mean, I think
Sona Soraka I think would make more sense.
I don't really like Morgana too much for the most part.
He just doesn't like Morgana in general. Karma. Yeah. No, Karma got gutted on this newest patch. Karma got destroyed under Q.
Was it this patch or was it? I don't think it's this patch, was it? I thought
it's the one that's going to be coming up. What's up?
Morgana's better with champions coming into her, but I don't think Sona's good with champions coming into her, if that makes sense.
Well, no, 100%. Like, even if you shield, what's it called? After you break the shield, she still takes a massive amount of damage, and she can't peel them off without her ult. Like, if a Nautilus goes into her, even if you shield the Sona, like, he's still on top of her, and you pretty much just still lose the engage. Like, you're forced to blow both ults, and you don't have the sustained damage to take him out. Like, that literally still would be terrible into, like, kind of like Threshes or Nautilus. It might be a lot better into Blitzcrank. I could see that actually happening because Blitzcrank doesn't really get on top of you when he hooks. He's kind of out of mana now, so he has to wait for a long cooldown, and he's stuck way over there, so he can't do anything.
So I want to say, as our final thing on C9 is, what do you guys think about is the players playing individually bad, or is it just them just making a bunch of mistakes on stage?
I mean, during the beginning of their kind of streak of losses, I think like if you looked at the pick where they had a whole team of just hardcore CC into like a game and no actual large amount of burst damage into an Olaf, or against CLG when Wiggly no contracts completely popped off on them. Like it was like you can see there are drafting mistakes, and you could have chalked it up at the beginning to them trying out kind of weird looking comps to see if it could work in the playoffs because they weren't worried. But now at this point, they've lost a lot of their games. They've lost the lead, and at this point, they might actually get to third to fourth place. Like, at what point in time do you start worrying about Like actually, like at this point, you can't chalk it up to them just trying new stuff out because they're like it seems like they've went back to their bread and butter comps and they're still not playing well. Like they're still losing some of these picks. So I do think their pick and bans have been kind of atrocious. Some picks sometimes, but at the same time, I think that the big problem right now is if you go, it always seems like there's one person underperforming. Like Vulcan's not nearly as good as it was at the beginning of the season. If we like just even 30 days ago, Vulcan was still like considerably the best support in the league before Core JJ started popping off again. Like
also, there's the guy who said, "Hey, sub in the fucking caddying players." I was like, never ever will I. They should never do that. Not right now. I'm not saying it's not good players. It's just like, why would you sub in worse players? You're subbing in worse players. Palafox.
Palafox, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not sold on swapping out this late into the season. All you're gonna do is demotivate the players. Like, I think that's something you do at the beginning to kind of whip your players back into shape. But what's up, Hedgie?
Yeah, I think I think there's drafting mistakes, but as well as that, there's also individual mistakes, and almost like there have been some just individual mistakes, but I think our macro is like gone down a whole notch. It just seems really people are just running everywhere. Like not even our shot calling seemed decisive, is how I'd describe it a few weeks ago, but now it's really like one person's going into the time in a lot of those fights, and I'm not sure if that's just lack of understanding of what our comp is supposed to do, because sometimes we're picking scaling, so it's like, oh well, we shouldn't technically wanting to fight a lot, but then we're fighting, and then some people are kind of like not going in, and some people are, and I think it might be a bit of a miscommunication between Reaper saying like, well, we're drafting a bit of a slower, let's say it says like, we're drafting slower, more scaling comps, so, play a bit safer, but then they're not really getting the message because we're playing aggressive comps all split, so they're just going to fight over anything. Or it's just genuinely, their deterioration in their shot calling or their decisiveness, because it's just all over the place, it seems like, in a lot of games. And even against TSM, like, it was felt discombobulated, felt like people didn't know what they're doing, felt like we didn't have an answer to anything they were doing. And yeah, I think that's been a big loss from earlier when we seemed to know every single game that we were playing an early game comp, that we have to end the game quickly, that we need to make decisive plays and get ahead. And that's just gone almost, like, and I'm not sure if that's going to get fixed next week or it in the playoffs, but yeah, I'm a bit worried.
But you play
that, yeah.
Well, C9 plays Dig and CLG, so it's a good chance we go 2-0. But I mean, that should be expected against Dig and CLG. They're at the bottom of the standings. You should expect that.
I want to point out that it's you shouldn't be happy with the 2-0
if we lost either.
Yeah, even if you lost any of them, even if you won both of them, I feel like the only way I'd be happy with a week next week is if we see some sort of kind of go back to what they were doing before, because even against bad teams, you can play well. And I think that's something a lot of people don't understand, is like you can 100% see somebody's improvement if they consistently make it like better to see, if they start closing out as concisely as they did before. Like they're still winning a lot of these kind of skirmishes in the jungle and stuff. Like they consistently,
none of their games are smashes. The only loss they've actually had was a smash, was the 100 Thieves game.
My problem is
every other loss, they're not getting destroyed in these games.
It's not about that. It's the thing about it is they're consistently responding to fights in the river and all this stuff as consistently as like they did before. But now they're making massive amount of mistakes to the point where like they get pretty decent leads in the mid game, and then they transition to like a kind of a really really straight up team fight to where they can't like apparently get a good flank off or something, and then they just lose the team fights either based off the comps or off one person making a massive mistake or somebody getting picked. Like they're winning these early game skirmishes still, but it's transitioning poorly into the mid game, because when they start fighting these teams evenly, they're not responding as well as they used to. Like they're not individually outplaying them. They're not having like I don't know 100% what it is, but it's always come down to this. Like they're kind of the counteractive point to Team Liquid right now. Team Liquid literally loses the game, and then all of a sudden the enemy team makes a mistake, and then they win the game. And that's just something that I feel like we used to see out of Cloud9, except they used to win the early game too, and then they'd be able to close off on a mistake. But Cloud9 is getting these leads, and they still are not closing consistent. They're just not closing out on them. I don't know what happened.
There's players that have had interviews that said they still win all their scrims. Like they actually just destroy people still. So it's something on stage that's not translating well. Like they're not exactly like they're still the same team, but something on that game day it's not clicking for some reason.
I just it doesn't feel like that though. You should like it's not like they're going. I don't know. I mean, it can't be a crowd anymore. Obviously, maybe people are watching, but I don't know. Like, what do they do? Like, it's a consistent like amount of forced aggression. Like, if you're a team that's ahead, if you're ahead at this point in time, you should be able to kind of slowly drive the force of the game and force them to have to react to you. And then, like at that point in time, like because if you consistently force fights when you're ahead, if you make a mistake, you lose all the pressure you had before, and that gives them the ability to come in. Like,
Hedgie.
What's going on?
Yo.
I'm hearing myself a little bit on your end. Could you guys turn your volume up just a little bit?
Yeah.
I'm not hearing it at all.
You're not hearing it at all? No, I am. Just like turn your volume up just a little bit. That's it. But yeah, continue.
I'm trying to remember what I was going to say now.
Because you're saying that style, you were saying the style for C9 was exploitable because of how they play consistently.
It wasn't always like that before. I feel like they've kind of driven themselves into a corner at this point. They've wrapped up how aggressive they are. Like before, it was we're ahead of the pace and we dictate how everything is going to fight. Like they fight around objectives, but now they just kind of fight to fight. They consistently look for fights. They'll TP in bot lane when they don't really need to do all this stuff.
Nick says they just fight and they think they win everything and they are better, but actually they aren't. And once you have a losing streak, this style collapses.
I mean, it just comes down to how minimal. Like, if this style works, you close out the game in like 15 minutes. But like again, you're giving too many opportunities for mistakes to happen to where the enemy team can come back, and that's why it's been coming out this way. Like they've been losing. They win the early skirmishes, and then they force another fight right after that, and they just either don't have the manpower to react to it, or like again, like if we look at the fight around Dragon, I still hate, like I don't want to keep pointing out the same one, but like Licorice, they get a good engage off with a volley bear on Blabber, and then Licorice doesn't get anybody with his ult, and they lose the fight after that because they're out of cooldowns. Like, what do you do? What do you do with a team that's consistently trying to force fights when they're ahead? Like, my big thing about it is you don't need to take risks when you're ahead. There's no reason to. If you don't see a pretty solid fight like lined up for you, you don't have to take that, because at this point in time you're already ahead, like in pace ahead of the enemy team. Then it says on Somebody Insight they play the same style on stage, then all scrims are mostly the same, just fight. Well, yeah, I mean, it's not even like an ARAM though. Like they don't even only fight in mid. It's not like they ever walk. Like I feel like they're still the best team. I still want to say that Cloud9 is the best team, even if they're not playing as well as they were. I just think that they do need to kind of slow, because they're playing. It's like 5 Dardoks on that team right now. They're constantly looking for fights and making mistakes. And like as much as I like to say,
God, that
like,
sounds horrible, man.
it is. That's exactly. That's what they're doing. They're running into the enemy jungle looking for fights, and then somebody gets picked, and then like I don't know. Like I have no idea what's wrong with this team right now, but I still think potential wise they have second or first best potential, and they still should be competing for first place right now. But with the way they've been playing recently, I couldn't say that. Chaos Style by UL. It was literally only Unicorns. Everybody else was so methodical, and
Unicorns are like, I'm gonna play Shaco.
Yeah.
All right, so that pretty much wraps it up for C9. This week should show people if they can dominate the games against Dig and CLG. If they can't dominate the games against CLG and Dig, this is definitely a problem. But let's move on to TL and TSM, looking much better. So TL is now the first place team in North America. They've taken down C9, they took down Dig, and they took down, what was it, CLG. Wow. And then TSM,
what an honor.
quietly, TSM quietly been just moving up the standings, just actually being very, very quiet. Nobody's really been paying attention to them. And all of a sudden, bam, now they're in second place.
Moving up in the standings since they've been third place to second place the entirety of the season.
I'm surprised as well. They've been bad for so long. Like, why is it quiet now, you know?
Because they replaced Biofrost with Treats. That's why.
It's not even, like, I feel like even though he's been playing well, the upgrade wasn't that significant to me. Like, I do think he's playing slightly better than Biofrost was. But I mean, at some point in time, I didn't feel like that was their weakest point. Obviously, their weakest point, like as it stands right now, is still their inability to like close out the games as consistently as they never actually. I was about to say as they used to, but they never have been able to. Like,
you know what was reported through stats? This was their
What?
fastest week of gameplay since like
They're a
2016.
fast-paced team. That's just the reality. Out of the top teams, they're probably the fastest-paced one. Like Cloud9 is fast-paced too, but I feel like I actually think that TSM was probably faster-paced last split, weren't they? I'm trying to think about it. They were probably. They were ahead at 15 slightly. I mean, more than they were this split.
Your analogy point, and you forget your point.
I forgot the stats because I was wrong.
I think it's the meta. I think it's the meta shift. Like, I think it suits double lift more.
I mean,
And
I
that's
think
why they
Doublelift just genuinely played so poorly last split that I thought he wasn't going to be an upgrade this split. But I think the reason that they actually, I feel like they're a stronger team is because I think the weakness of TSM last split was not early game aggression, but even with like Darduck provided early game aggression, and I still feel like he'd be better on this team than Spick is, because Spick is horrible. But like again, I still
bad. Like
Darduck Spick is the single worst jungler in the league. That's like I feel like as much as I don't think Darduck is
no, Wiggly.
Oh, you know, Wiggly might be the worst. You're right.
Oh, Heiji, you're breaking up.
He's not. He's
Really?
just muffled. He's just muffled. He's not breaking up.
Is that
Okay,
better?
okay.
Or-
Yeah, you're better. Yeah, you're better. Yeah, you're good.
All right, sorry. I'll
You're
I'll
like
move.
dying there in Australia. Oh my god, dude. Is the kangaroo
that-
beating you up? Good god.
Nah, man, it's a snake. I think Wiggly. Like, I don't understand why that has been a change that they've thought of. Like, in the 2 years he's been terrible the entire time, and they haven't done anything.
Is
Like,
like what one good split the whole time?
It was that he okay. So what my thought process is when he first came into the league, those few games he played, I was like, wow, this guy might actually be something. Then the next split, he was literally the worst jungler in the league. And then the next split after that, he bounces back, and everybody's like, wow, he just made this resuscitation of his career. This might be one of the next best junglers. And then just two straight splits after that, he's the worst jungler in the league again. Like, I don't know what's wrong with this guy. Like he genuinely shows glimpses of times where you're like, maybe he could be average, but he just doesn't live up to that. He doesn't even live up to the average expectations I had of him.
Oh, like Nick is right. FlyQuest have the same thing. They have 4 wins in a row like TSM. Actually, TSM, FlyQuest, and Golden Guardians all have
like FlyQuest still. Like,
well,
I feel like
FlyQuest
FlyQuest
have losing streaks.
FlyQuest has bounced back a little bit because what's his name's been playing better.
Oh, Ignar?
Ignar has been playing a lot
Ignar's
better.
their best
these
player
past
by
weeks.
so far, and he's the
I don't-
best player.
I think
Their
Power
best
Evil's
player by
pretty
so
great.
far. Yeah,
What's
I
up?
actually like PoE, and I think they have some sort of weird connection when where they play together. They play way better, but like, yeah, I think Ignar's like still the second best player in the league, possibly. Or, like,
Ignar is probably the
top
second,
3 or
like
4.
support in league, 100%. I think after a little bit, I've trying to kind of shift in my person because I think at the beginning of the split he played really poorly, but he's really
Yeah.
kind of dialed it up recently. These past weeks they've been only winning based off of his engages and then Power of Evil getting like 70 kills. Like
So
that's-
Yeah.
So let's cover TL first. So now TL are the team that's in first place, right? And this team has been heavily criticized all year long, and especially this split where they have a jungler that essentially has done nothing the entire time he's been on the team so far. Essentially, you could be first place in the LCS, and your jungler is literally the 8th best jungler in the league.
my big
They
thing
have the
about it.
shittiest league in the world.
I remember one
God.
game where they had 2 straight team fights, and I looked at Broxa, and he still didn't have a death, kill, or he just had no kill. Like it's like
I
I
remember
know he was
watching-
in that fight.
No,
Like-
everyone in TL just stands back except Jensen, and Jensen just kills them all. That's
Yeah,
their
see,
play style.
It's crazy to me. Like Brox, I mean, Core JJ, 100%. Like it's just those two. Those two are the driving force behind this team. Impact does his job, whatever. But like Broxa, like I don't want to hate Broxa.
He does, guys. He
I don't
hates
think
him.
no one's
He secretly hates
forcing
him.
Broxa to play like Smithy. He's playing like he's not even. If he was playing like Smithy, that would be an upgrade. He's not playing like Smithy right
I
now.
watched one
he's-
game where I thought Impact was a carry. Like I've watched one game where I think he carried a game.
Yeah, Impact has been like Impact's not the best player on this team. He never has been. Actually, last split, last year, I think he played great. This year, he's been like an average player. He resorted back to his old days where he's like somebody who plays his role in the team fight well. He's always in the fights, but he's not a driving force behind people winning, and he's going to be a liability in international fights when he gets there.
They force him to play like Smithy, but he actually doesn't know how, and then does nothing.
Maybe, you know what? It's a possibility, but they give him.
But this week against CLG, he actually played aggressive. This was his first aggressive game I've seen from him.
I don't want to give him credit for like a singular game. I just don't like, especially against CLG, who has such an exploitable jungler. Like Wiggly could make anybody look like a good player. I feel like so like giving him that much credit is too much for me. I think I'm really excited for
the MVP candidates for the split should be Core JJ and Closer.
I don't even think Closer. I don't think Closer should be up there with him right now because I think
it should
Jensen,
be.
Surely.
Jensen is great.
I'd say Jensen, Core JJ, and Closer is the only three people I'd even consider.
I think Closer's great. I don't think he is a step above Blabber.
But he is the most valuable player towards his team.
I mean, they've all been playing well. I mean, I don't want to give him that much
credit. Yeah, but then Niski should have won the last fucking
right. I said he should have won. People were like, no, Blabber should get it. Yeah,
Blabber was not better than Niski.
Play competitive LCS and play without a good mid laner, right? You will get straight up.
My big thing about it is that laning wise, I think Niski is a step below Jensen, but he has so much impact in the fights.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. I don't want to make fun of Bjergsen.
Bjergsen's also MVP quality. He's been an MVP quality candidate this split too, actually.
Every single time he's got TF, he has solo won their games. Like it's just what's been happening recently. He's been incredible in the transition, like in these global ults. But at the same time, he's had games where I think he's not been as impactful. Like Niski,
Double has been good, man. Like,
what's up?
Double has been good.
Doublet has been good.
Solid.
Those two games, his best KDA games, Doublets, are games where Bjergsen straight up pops off on TF. Like those have been the games where I think Doublet has looked the best.
Or when Spica runs it down.
Doublet has not been as needed to a win as I think Bjergsen has. I think Doublet is incredible, and I think his ability to team fight is great. But I mean, I don't see him as the best player on this team right now because I don't think he's had that much of an impact in comparison. He's team fought better than everybody else.
Yeah.
Like Bjergsen training to do nothing for Worlds. I don't ever agree with that. I hate when people say that, but I mean, I can understand some aspects behind it because when you face a better mid laner than you, you're just not going to have the ability to do much. Like Caps looked terrible at Worlds against most of the top tier mid laners. Like, I mean,
he beat everyone who was.
You know what? I've beat bronze mid laners.
If I played against Michael Jordan right now, I'd probably lose in a basketball game. But if I'm better than everybody else outside of Michael Jordan, I'm still a pretty good player.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is Bjergsen might not be as good as Caps, but again, when he faces those better mid laners, there's not much he can do. I mean, I think really.
That's what you expect going in, though. If you're better,
that's what I expect from Caps too. I mean, I just think when I see,
I respect that. No, if you're a better mid laner, you should be beating Caps. Then that's just me personally. If you're a better player, then you should be winning. That's the thing.
Joseph, we both know this, okay? G2 didn't beat SKT. SKT beat SKT. Okay?
Dude, SKT picked compositions where they got early game leads and just did nothing. I was like, what the hell are they doing?
I mean, I feel like when SKT faces teams they're scared of now, they draft comps that aren't really suited towards them.
They got ahead in that G2 series. They got ahead.
Yeah, what I'm saying is they don't know how to play them properly. They know the early game process, but they don't know the mid game transition or team fights because those people aren't comfortable on their champions. They're not comfortable on how to team fight with them. They just like it's all a theory to them, and that's the big thing with Korea right now is they learn all these players and they learn all these things, but the players they get taught how to play by the coaches essentially. And then when it comes down to actually doing it themselves, the players really just don't have the mindset for it. You really have to have the experience on the team, I assume, to be able to know how to play this meta because it's too fast paced. Like they're still recovering from season 5 meta. They're still in
They're recovering from getting knocked down by China after these 2 years.
The LS broke 8 different PC screens when he saw them first pick Renekton. Like,
but also, guys, make sure to subscribe to LS's Twitch. Remember that. Just remember that. But so are you guys convinced TL is the best team in North America? Actually,
I just said no. I don't even think. I think at their best, both Cloud9 and TSM are better than them. But Team Liquid has the ability to close out games once they get a lead, and that's the reason as to why they're always beating lower tier teams.
So you're
Because
saying at
once-
Worlds they're gonna get destroyed. That's what
I
you're
do
saying.
think they're going to lose to like they're just like Core JJ is great, but there's so many exploitable lanes on this team. Like maybe not mid lane, even mid lane actually. Against
No,
these,
like if they go to Worlds, I think it's gonna be the same issue they had last year, except they have quote unquote better players. Depends on how you
where
look
do they
at
have
it.
better players at?
It depends on how you look at
Mid
it.
lane. They have the
Impact
best.
is
They have
worse.
the best mid laner.
They do have the best mid laner. I still think the best mid laner won't match up to the Chinese and Korean mid laners right now, and that's just unfortunate.
Showmaker, Faker, if he goes. Showmaker, Faker.
I think Showmaker would
Chovy?
dumpster like straight up.
Chovy? Even Chovy. Chovy's
That's-
insanely well. BDD. Let's say if Genji goes. Jensen beating BDD.
They have the second best support, and arguably, I think he can go against international competition.
I think they have the best
strong
support
ADC.
right now.
Well,
I think
because
he knows better
Genji and TL
because
played-
FlyQuest is just a bad team.
if Genji and TL played, Core JJ would go up against Life, right? God, Life
Yeah, I
sucks.
really do think that, like, again, I think inconsistency when Ignore pops off on like Thresh, it's flashy and stuff, and you can really see why it looks great. But like he's inconsistent, and I don't like that.
It's
I don't
because like
inconsistencies.
the analogy pro players gave Ignar was Ignar plays for himself to look for highlight plays. He doesn't really play for his team.
Well, when he was on Rakan and stuff, and then you banned Rakan off of him in the playoffs, he was worthless. And that's why I don't like Ignar. He's a really limited champion pool, which I think he's useful. I think it's Thresh, Rakan, and a few other engage. What's up?
I think Ignar just has bad teammates around him. So
I do. He doesn't have to.
You know what I mean?
He-
like,
He has power of evil. That's what he has.
yeah, that's it.
He's
But,
got
like,
Wild Turtle, the
Paul
best
JJ has
ADC.
some good players around him. Wild Turtle.
He's got Wild
Like,
Turtle, the
Wild
best
Turtle's a good
ADC.
I
ADC.
do think
Jensen, Impact. Like, he's got
Yeah.
some good players around him.
I do agree with that. I mean, Impact is decent. Impact's playing a lot better recently, but I think it all comes down to like the fact that I think that inconsistencies and then putting him as the main sort of like engage is why he looks worse. Maybe. I mean, that could be a possibility
Yeah.
because he usually is the primary source of engage for this team.
If you
Oh,
break it down as well to the individual player, like Core JJ, I think is worse. And in terms of Core JJ, like, where's he been at his best? All right, they won the world championship when he was sitting there putting shields on people. Like,
Yeah, I hated that dude.
that hard to
I
do,
hated it.
like, compared to.
People forget. People say
Yeah.
he's like he has those nice pocket picks. His pocket pick before was Tom Kent. I mean, you know,
He still plays Tom Kent, to be fair. But
he plays it really,
Like,
really well
he-
actually. So.
Everyone was like, "Oh my god!" Like Crown, he was so good at that world, and like, no, he wasn't. Like Ruler was
was-
incredible, Ambition was incredible.
Crown was horrible at that
Kude-
Worlds, man. He just played Malzahar.
yeah, like
The previous
he had
Worlds.
some good moments. Their macro was immaculate, and that's why they won games. But like,
Yeah. I mean, I
They-
think
they-
the big thing about it, they didn't have any competition that year, though. SKT was just completely in the dumpster fire at that point in time. It really made me
yeah,
sad.
they're
They had, like-
drafting, bro. Like, what the?
yeah, they're
What's
just
the
like
gas work
everything.
and not the?
I just want to point out the second best player on that team was Huni, and that is just not something you want at a world class team at that point in time.
I remember
Oh,
that SKT lost to KT in the semis, and then oh my god, too many memories from back in the day. But all right, so let's go to the LEC. The LEC is interesting because every single team can beat each other. But you know what's always the consistent thing is that G2 will always smash Fnatic. Fun fact this year. Fun fact. G2 is 7-0 against Fnatic. 4 games they won in the regular season, combined split, spring, and summer. And in the finals, they had in spring, 7-0. So is that a rival?
you actually got
You
some
can-
of those stats wrong. Okay, it's actually 6-0, and the other one is Fnatic beat Fnatic 1-0. Because
is
that was the
fair.
worst draft I've seen in my life.
It's kind of crazy, honestly. I think drafting is such a big problem with a lot of these kind of teams, and I think it's not as relevant as it is in the NALCS. But I still think that there are a lot of problems with the drafting picks in like teams like maybe Fnatic is probably the biggest problem with them.
Okay,
I think
so what I
Origin-
know about Fnatic so far is that Mithy wanted them to be like more of a player-oriented team, where like it's a player-ran team where they're making most of the decisions. But that means you don't really have a ton of structure. Like you don't have structure with that though. Like I get the idea of that, but that's like a season 5 thing with Origin. It's all players, they all love each other, they're all kind of,
They're all different opinions though. Like Blupo is like LS, Blupo and Nemesis like LS focused, and then their jungler
LS
and
ruined
bot lane's
Fnatic.
like.
Let's ruin Fnatic.
I hate
You can
like
see it in
LS.
the draft.
Like I love
Like,
LS's insight, but I just can't stand listening to him. I think that's the big problem.
Yeah,
for me.
that's. Dude,
He's so smart
just-
about the league. Like that's what keeps bringing me
He's
to his thing.
homophobic, doesn't? I'm just joking. No, like they're drafts, so they're like, all right. So we got Gangplank and Cookie, right? Probably two. You could almost argue
you're
like,
muffled.
the two most
You're
scaling
muffled.
champions. Okay, sorry, is that better?
Yeah.
Very good.
Okay, yeah, the two most scaling champions in their positions, right? Gangplank and Corky. All right, perfect. All right, that's let's pair it with the most aggressive jungler in the game in Lee Sin and make no. Like what is
Yeah.
what does
Thank
Lee
you,
Sin have to gain?
Nick. Thank you. It doesn't work with Fnatic because every player has a different idea how to play the game. Reckless plays super passive. Haley plays super aggressive. Without structure, that doesn't work.
My thing about it is Hylissang went from inconsistent to inconsistently. Sometimes he has average games. Like Hylissang has just been terrible. He's really had almost no good games since the beginning of the split.
Hit the Blitzcrank game.
The beginning of the split.
It's hard to look good when you pick Pike. Like,
Yo, the Pike and Blitzcrank game. He has
just
some
like-
pretty good games on those.
I feel like he's just been so bad. Like even he's had a lot of his comfort picks for the most part. I mean, he's terrible on Nautilus. I just don't understand how. Nautilus is one of the easiest champions in the game to consistently play, and he plays engaged champions. Yet somehow Nautilus doesn't work for him. If I would love. I don't know about Magic Felix. I've seen a lot of like attempts for people to get him to play in the LEC, but for some reason he's never actually made it there. Like really made an impact there. So I feel like there's a reason for it behind the scenes, or maybe he's just not been as good in scrims as I'm assuming, because he's really had a lot of chances.
When you're talking about a player ran org, it doesn't work with those players specifically because the Fnatic players all play differently. Blipple plays so much differently from Selfmade. Nemesis and Selfmade don't even have good synergy, and that was the reason why they even got him. Like, they've just honestly sucked this whole split. Like, if Fnatic did not make playoffs, I wouldn't be surprised based off their low quality of gameplay, honestly. It's just not good.
I know I've droned on about this draft, but like I just want to put it in perspective, all right? They lose early game, they lose late game, they have no tank, they have no engage. They're getting counted at every position in every lane. Like I just don't understand what the thought process was with it. Were they like actually trying to build the worst draft in the world, like as bad as possible? Like
oh my god, the Nemesis Corky game. What was that? Yeah. What is he even? I think they're all mentally drained at this point. That's what I personally think. Hopefully, imagine if they go 0-3 this week, because this week is the LEC Super Week. I think. Let me see who they actually face this week. I know they play Schalke. Schalke's actually on a winning streak, and they said Gilius might be an MVP. What world are we living in?
I want to point out Gilius.
He's playing pretty well.
He throws the games or he carries the games. That's just how. Like against what did they play last?
Origin.
Against
Origin.
Against Origin, he stole Baron. He like one shot the jungler, and then he got
kicked ADC to the whole team.
He's been incredible recently, and I think that is one of the big things. I think as to why I've been saying that I think every team needs a therapist, because we see emotionally driven players like Gilius pop off, and when he starts playing poorly, he never bounces back because that's how his mentality works. I think that's one of the big reasons I think every team should have somebody who's in there to kind of bring everybody back into a good state of mind, because he's really the only he's one of the picture perfect people as to why you need one of those people. Like it's just I think Schalke's not that good of a team. I think if you look at a lot of things they do, they genuinely straight up force team fights and all that stuff. They are TPing in the bot lane, TPing everywhere. They're playing around the map consistently. And I think they're probably not even close to the worst team right now. They look a lot better than Fnatic. They look better than Origin. They look better than Vitality. They should be in the playoffs, in my opinion, at this point in time.
Also, guys, before we start talking about the LEC, to everyone who's watching, all I just ask you, just like the video, and that's it. That's it.
Why
when you guys are watching
in the middle of the conversation, always,
because it always makes you guys laugh. But Fnatic play Schalke, XL, and SK Gaming.
It does make me laugh hearing your stupid voice. I can agree with that
Oh
one.
my god, you're just like them. You two are just like each other. You leave me and you come back. Oh my god, I hate you all. But if
Don't
they
worry, we hate you too, buddy.
if they lost to Schalke, I am not surprised because Schalke are actually playing pretty decent.
I think the big problem is that Schalke has so much inconsistencies. Like I feel like if they don't really have that kind of early because again, when they
Gillies
lost,
is all their
when he had
their
to
whole
steal
team.
Baron, they were
Yeah.
just so far ahead. Like I don't know how it transitioned for them just losing all pressure on the map.
They lost
lose
the whole
vision
game.
control, and then somehow Gilius has to steal Baron because even though they're ahead, they lost like a team fight and they lose all their pressure. XL's on the upswing.
I want to
feel
congratulate.
What's up?
I really want to congratulate Shadow for
Shadow's
managing
playing.
to carry his team on the same champion 14 times in a row.
It's
in
crazy,
League.
huh? Like
Shadow's really
Basically
good.
solo queue. Like, yeah, I don't understand. Like, either ban it or figure out a counter to one of the worst junglers in the
Shadows
game.
just has shown that he's good on other characters, so I don't know if it's like they're gonna always pick it when it's open. But I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know why you don't ban it at this point because it's obviously something they want to have consistently. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like,
Maybe it's because they think
don't
it's
know.
not that big a deal.
and it's not as if it's a champion you can't draft around, right? Like, there are a lot of counters to it, and I'm not saying it's terrible if you're an aggressive team like Mad Lions and you can get leads and you're confident in that. But like, shit, if it's that annoying for you, just ban it, man. Like, just don't understand. Like, they're not trying to come up with a counter to it or specific, thing. They're not trying to ban it. They're not doing anything. Like, they're just giving it to him every game, and it's like, okay, we've played it so many times. Like, it's just solo queue, man.
XL is on an upswing. Schalke looking like the best team in the league. SK is kind of question mark, but can definitely be Fnatic. Oh yeah, because as a recent update, Trick is now back in Korea, some sort of emergency. So now they brought in a new jungler for them. So that might be a problem for them this late because Trick was a driving force for SK Gaming this split. I thought SK were going to be 10th, honestly. I thought SK were going to be 10th.
I expect
They've actually had a pretty decent split. They've had a decent split for them.
I mean, they're in playoffs, so that's obviously decent for them when they had a team that should have been in last place.
Or
I think Crown Shot is their best player.
That's what I'm saying. Crown Shot, even back when Selfmade was on this team, if Selfmade popped off without Crown Shot also playing well, the game was over because they couldn't win. He never solo carried a game because he always needed Crown Shot to consistently play up to caliber for them to be able to win a game. Like he's been somebody I think was just surprised me on how good he was. Like he's not consistent enough for me to say he's like a top tier ADC. He's not amazing, but I do think he's been pretty decent for like the entirety of these last 2 years. Like every team from 3rd to 10th can still get 3rd to 10th. Yeah, they're only like a game apart, dude.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Well, that one guy who's a top laner, Jinax. Is it Jinax, right?
Jinax? Are you talking about
their role swap mid to top laner? He's actually not been a bad top laner either. They don't have a bad team. Limit's been playing better. Zazzy's probably the most underrated mid in the league so far. From at least this split. Zazzy's been pretty good. XL, I'm not sold on XL though. XL only wins through their bot lane. Their mid sucks, their top laner stinks, and K-Droll is better than Brock.
Top three top laner. I think the top one is Alfari. The second one is what's this? Cabochard.
I don't know.
I mean, Cabochard's been playing well recently. I don't know. I mean, I really don't know who I would put it.
I really don't know. Outside of Alfari, I guess. Aroma's not been having that bad a split, honestly.
Aroma, I mean, again, I think when they put him on a carry, I didn't think he looked good against G2. I did not like his Jax. So, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't put him on a carry. I think that's what makes me not want to put him up there.
I think Whipple is the best top laner in the league, but that's just me. But, I'm just kidding, guys. So what else team is in the LECs? Oh, yeah, G2. G2 actually bounced back this week. They actually looked pretty good. It's like the best week they've had so far.
Really?
Yeah. Caps made Nemesis look like a Diamond 5 mid laner.
No, that's being nice to Diamond 5s, man. Like being unfair to Diamond 5s.
Because the thing with G2, is that they probably had a good week of scrims. They probably translated against Fnatic. Man, let me actually go to the game super quick because I kind of forgot a lot about it. Because I've watched it like a few times. For Nemesis, Diamond 5 was a compliment. Oh my god, you guys are mean to Nemesis.
I feel like Nemesis bounced back for 2 weeks and then just kind of reverted back to what he was before. It was really sad.
Let me see
talking
this.
to LS. This is what happened, man.
Stop talking to LS. What the heck? LS is the best drafter in this planet.
No,
I
I
love
am.
LS.
He's second.
All right, so here's what I want to say about the G2 versus Fnatic game. Credit to Hillisang, he actually did really well in the early game. He made them both flashes consistently with his hooks on Pike. He actually played pretty well in this game. I think it gets overshadowed by how badly they get stomped later on. I think Reckless and Hillisang played well between levels 1 through 4. They didn't look. See, look, he's not doing bad. They're not playing bad. But the issue here is, well, you have Jin and Pike, and that's also a problem. Like, see, they're blowing his flash, right? You're blowing his heal. Like, come on, they're not playing that bad, honestly. This game specifically, at least for this portion of the game so far.
My big thing about it is I don't know how you even manage at the pro level to get in a position where you're able to get hooked by Pike level 1. Like,
oh my lord, thank you, Nick. Self-made literally, oh my lord, look at this bronze level shit right here. All right, you get everything from him. Leave. You won. He's chunked. What are you doing?
What's up? I mean, he really, I feel like...
Griefing.
Yeah,
that's just literally competitive inting or griefing,
sandbagging,
whatever you guys call it.
I don't understand it. Self-made, I feel like that specifically wasn't enough to throw the game away. I really did throw the pace of the game, though. But
it gave their bot lane back priority that they already had lost, though.
I mean, you can't really take, like, essentially what they were doing is they were trying to get Jhin pretty decently ahead, but you were never going to keep the consistent pressure you had in bot lane. Like, Caitlyn Morgana is going to beat Jhin Pike every single time. Like, there's nothing you can do about it.
But Reckless was up in CS,
is like
though.
One of the best counters into GP.
True.
Is one of the best counters into GP? Yeah, because you can't cleanse it.
I think it's like one of the only champions.
Yeah, that can actually CC him.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I think that's one of the best picks into it. Like, they probably...
And with a Volibear, such great gank potential, you know? Like, you can just put the cage in, get the easy Q, it's pretty free.
Oh, Nemesis.
I despise Volibears, like the way they make
Volibear's just disgusting with champion.
They literally already made it, after all the nerfs and stuff, they made it so easy to tower dive. And then they add a champion who can literally just make them not exist. Like, I despise...
What does any of the champions do? If Camille ults, it's just over. Like,
yeah, you can't do anything.
There's
fucking that. Yeah, that's just disgusting. Oh my god.
It just doesn't... Nothing you can do.
Riot just prefers Riot just prefers when you have no counterplay. That's what they love. That no counterplay, tank just runs at you, murders your face. Good.
When they buffed it to where Camille was a jungler, and then they nerfed her so fast because they realized she was the most broken character in the game.
Who does Lee kick here though? Like, I don't get. How's he gonna get to Caitlyn?
Oh, he kicked the Volibear into the team, didn't he?
Oh yeah, people are really mad about that. People are really mad about that.
Ult out.
Who is he going to kick though? Like, if he kicks Camille, it's Camille. If he kicks Morgana, it's Morgana. If he kicks LeBlanc, it's LeBlanc. If he kicks Volibear, it's Volibear. If he kicks Caitlyn, Morgana's going to press shield.
Well, he's not getting to Caitlyn either. That's the thing.
Yeah. Same with Pike. How the fuck's Pike going to get into this team? Like,
you can't use Lee Sin late game if they have a Morgana, because they literally, like, once you start going in for it, she can shield whoever you're going on. Like,
the Nemesis package in team. Don't remind me.
And hopefully he can burst them. Like, there's nothing you can do with Lee Sin in this game. Like,
you know what? That was
funny. Okay. I don't know why. That's so greedy by Caitlyn, by the way. Like, that's just basic fundamentals.
Look at that shit. He kicked the Volibear to his whole team. Oh, I'm sorry to laugh, but this man literally threw them the game and then just did it again. My god.
Pike's like, yes, we're down. I can be here.
What is that? What is that? Is that his recall? I was looking at the streams version. What was that? That was weird.
Oh my god.
They're so tilted. Like,
they're mentally destroyed.
My thing about it is when I've had a problem with Selfmade's Lee Sin for a little bit. I mean, I think at the beginning of the year when he was making, he is consistently looking for kicks on anybody he can get them on. That's always been his big problem. Like he's a good aggressive jungler who essentially just attacks whatever he sees in front of him when he gets into this character. And that's, I mean, you already have one of those, and hey, listen, you don't need two of them.
This man is so far ahead. He's diving under their tier 3 turret, throwing a chain, and it's almost killing them. How far ahead that man is.
Draft. It's just the sort of draft where I actually want to talk to the coach and understand what his thought process was. Where do they win?
Remember, it's a player ran team. They can choose whatever the hell they want. They don't even know if it's good. Fuck it, not structure.
that moment was really funny because the caster said he's trying to get a redemption kill. He gets it, and then the redemption kills him. He was saying redemption is in
oh my god, yeah. He lived and he walked back into redemption and killed himself. What is that?
I mean, he wasn't gonna make it out.
Beautiful, really good, LeBlanc. That's really smart being there with 200 health. You fucking donkey, jeez.
Oh my god, you must be nice.
I am
good job, Hill is saying. Good job. Good job, man.
Wasn't even in that. That was Caps and Lippo.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. Oh, you find the pick. This is the.
Okay, that kick wasn't a problem because to be fair, he was alone. That's not that bad.
What do you mean?
The kick right there wasn't that bad because
I was still looking at the streams version. That's why. Let me see. Hillis. My big thing about it just doesn't even look like they're even outmatched player wise. They just don't do anything with cohesion. I don't understand.
And what is the Jin for?
They got drafted, dude. This is just drafted.
Leeson has no use in this team, and I think they picked a bunch of characters with almost no consistent. Pyke, for the most part, can't really lead off with E, which is his most consistent form of CC without dying for it. You're really kind of stuck in the middle of the team late game when you do that. You have Lee Sin, who can't stun. I mean, who can't kick anybody in the team because they have Morgana, and you have. I mean, Corki was just terrible. I mean, that was the big thing about it. I think Corki, playing moderately well, could have been one of the bigger forms of engage they could have used to be able to get onto their team. But he just didn't do anything proper. He literally was worthless.
Why have they picked 2 scaling champs? If Lee, I don't get it. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean,
good God, they're that far ahead. Jeez,
think about
man.
it. I feel like maybe they thought because Corki can actually shove in LeBlanc, maybe they wanted to make something happen bot or top side with him, but they didn't do anything with Corki. I don't. They understand.
Couldn't. He was too far behind.
He was too far behind because he's terrible at Corki. I don't think he's ever good at Corki. Has he ever had a good game on Corki?
But if you're gonna do that,
oh lord,
better champions to do that anyway,
Lord.
Right?
Maybe he. I have no idea. I'm just trying to somewhat make sense because
this is your answer. It's called the art of int.
It doesn't make sense.
At some sort of way, you can make Corki push in LeBlanc and make him do something. But if you're not going to do that, then there's no reason.
So the first comment on the video is Hillisang trying to get hit by every Morq in existence.
It's not even just that. He literally never had a good package. He didn't have a single good package. The only time he got kills were when Caitlyn overshoved in the bot lane and she got picked off. That was that happened with top too. But
someone said Reckless is stuck with 4 inters. I feel so bad for him.
This is straight up the only consistent member of this team. Just like Caps is the only consistent member of G2. They really don't.
Oh, come on, Yankos. Come on.
Someone says this is the so-called greatest rivalry in the LEC, going 0-7 against one team.
I think the reason that G2 so much is because Yankos is unarguably the most important member of this team, and he's not playing as well as he is recently.
Good God.
You suck.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
Yeah, he is by far the most important. I every time G2 has popped off on the international stage, Yankos has been the centerpiece to why they've succeeded. And I don't know why that Family Guy thing right now. What was that?
I'm a huge Fnatic fan, but Selfman and Hilly have been running it down lately. Duo losing games for Fnatic. If Reckless just had a better team, he would win Worlds easily.
I don't agree with that.
And then someone says a late April Fool's joke.
I agree that they would do a lot better in EU, but winning Worlds is a stretch. Match.
Oh yeah,
Cloud9
match of the week right
was.
there. Match of the week, the best rivalry in the LEC, and they're 0-7 against their rivals. That's why Ocelot always makes fun of them because they're that. Look, hey, like guys, like growing up how I grew up, a rival is not someone who loses to you consistently. A rival is someone who can challenge you, can beat you at your best. That's a rival. They went 0-7 this year alone.
You growing up like you grew up. You're making your childhood sound like Naruto. What?
Back in my day.
You suck.
Back in my day. I'm good.
You
This
know,
is how I
think,
feel
Go have
about
sex with yourself, asshole. I'm not that stupid. Just for that, I'm gonna spend my whole childhood eating what I want and doing drugs when I want. Whatever, I do what I want.
Dude, I don't think the Los Angeles Clippers versus the Minnesota Timberwolves is a rivalry because the Timberwolves always beat them. I mean, it's just too easy, you know.
Oh yeah, true. And then you have the, and then against the Celtics, Jason Tatum is like the only thing good about them right now. Oh God. But nevertheless, all right. So that's pretty much it for the LEC. Fnatic, they most likely not gonna make playoffs. I just don't see it right now. They might go 3-0. I could also have sex with Scarlett Johansson, but that probably is not gonna happen. So you never know. Honestly, you never know. No.
I kind of know the answer to that one actually.
Okay.
You
I think I
suck.
could.
You suck.
All right, so let's go to our LEC. Just kidding. Let's go to our LCS jungler tier list. So in A tier, I have Closer and Blabber. B tier, Santorin, Svenskeren, Dardoch. C tier,
list before you're supposed to go one at a time. You weirdo.
I'm gonna explain. Oh my God! Can I are you? Guys, this is what he does all the time.
Have you ever seen a list where somebody goes through the entire list before they say it?
And they explain their choices.
I've never seen that in my life.
Oh my goodness. Then your life needs a lot of love. I'm just kidding. All right, so let me go since I was rudely interrupted. Oh my God. A tier, Closer and Blabber. B tier, Santorin, Svenskeren, Dardoch. C tier, Contracts like Smithy, Broxa. F tier, Wiggly and Spica. And Wiggly's above Spica because Spica's just awful. Cricket.
I think my big thing about it.
We have the same list, don't we?
It was a really big toss up for me between Spica and Wiggly, but I think Spica's had too many good games in comparison to Wiggly, so I had to swap them around.
But Spica's had a game where he's picked two champions and just ran it down. I don't think Wiggly's ever did that.
Wiggly hasn't had a single good game in the past two splits.
But at least he's not ever useless. Spica's just useless.
Wiggly is useless every game. I don't know what you're talking about.
There's been some games where he's had some impact, some negative impact.
Negative impact, yes, I agree with that.
But Spica, remember the Kane game where he just did nothing, just picked it,
that was the first game he ever came in, and I was like,
and then he did it again with Olaf. He invaded 2 games of Olaf, and he was straight up dog shit. I don't know. I would say Wiggly's better.
Games, that's what I'm saying.
I would say Wiggly's better. He's had some decently okay games.
I don't know, man. I've never seen it. Like,
I'd go.
What's up?
Oh, I like the LCL.
Okay, I'd go S tier is Blabber.
Okay.
You only I can put Closer up there.
S tier. No, I think Blabber's just better than Closer. Like S tier would be Blabber, and then A tier would be.
I'm putting people in S tier.
Oh, I was
Santorin and Broxa, and then.
Okay.
B tier would be Closer. C tier would be Jesus Christ. This is hard. They're so bad.
I think
it's hard to.
C tier is between Broxa, Smithy, Contracts, unless you want to throw in Acadian and Meteos, but they're not actually playing right now.
I feel like the only people you like Santorin and Svenskeren are a tier above like the middle tier teams. Like Closer is the second best jungler. Then I think Santorin and Svenskeren are a step above everybody else.
I think Santorin's solidified third because Svenskeren's games have looked rather int.
Santorin's worse? I mean, Closer's worse.
I think Closer's worse than Santorin. I think he's probably on the same tier as Broxa and Svenskeren, probably.
I think Broxa is probably the 8th best jungler in the league. And that's just I just don't like the thing about it is I do think a lot of these middle tier junglers kind of throw their games away, but at the very least, you can actually say that with like on their teams without them, a lot of their games would not have been won. Like if you look a lot of the games that Contracts had against Cloud9 without that, again, it was mostly because Olaf had to go into a team that wasn't designed to beat him. But without like like contracts on that team, they would 100% lost to Cloud9 that time. I don't think
They would also not have any more wins because
Rockstar
Meteos was
never
just
had a game like that, which is the big reason I
Yeah.
can't put him up too high. Like Dardock, when he first came into the team, he straight up like they started winning, even though again he made a lot of his classic mistakes where he just walks into the enemy jungler with no vision and just gets picked off. At the same time, he consistently, before they kind of transitioned their style into skirmish style, he was forcing early game aggressive like ganks and was able to get the lane started at the very least. But now again, like I feel like that kind of ever since the play style of the team has kind of transitioned into this like forced skirmish style that they saw the top tier teams doing, I would have to put Dardock below contracts. Like, but I think Broxah just hasn't done anything. Like he doesn't feed, and that's the big thing about it.
But if you don't, but like just because you're not feeding doesn't mean you're being impactful towards your team either.
It doesn't mean that. I agree with that, and it's a big reason as to why I can't put him. Like it's hard for me to put him below most of the junglers because he just.
I just haven't seen anything S tier related. That's why it's not like I was neglecting S tier. I just didn't see anything S tier related from Blabber, only because they started recently kind of falling off, and that impacted him not being an S tier. He would have been S tier, but the last few games.
Yeah, it's fair.
Honestly, if we're putting it, are we putting it into perspective of like the rankings, if just purely NA or just like in terms of like junglers around the world?
This is just for North America. This split.
If we put him, I don't even think there's like an A tier jungler in NA. I don't think anybody is close.
Then you'd have to put like half them in F tier, man. Like
I know that's what I'm saying. Like
yeah, but
it's really frustrating because I think jungling is significantly the weakest role in NA, and I don't think anybody really is substantially better than everybody else. I think Blabber and Closer are still my favorites. I mean, I do see what your point is. That I think Closer, some games just doesn't have an impact, which is a big problem. And some games, I think
he's their whole team. That's what he's their whole team though.
I mean,
he's jungling's probably the worst role in China as well. I don't think there's many good junglers. Like in my opinion. I think there's a few.
SOFM, they have Karsus kind of a stretch.
I think Karsus is very good. I think
Ning is actually playing
Karsus
better.
Good. Kanavi is good. I don't think Tian's that good.
Tian's not good. God, Tian's falling off a cliff. Oh my god!
Is the only again SOFM is an objective based jungler, which is kind of weird for me to say. I don't really like those too often, but again, I still think he's a moderately decent. Like he's a pretty great jungler actually. I don't want to say moderately decent. I think he's better than everybody in NA.
Peanut's actually been playing a lot better.
The best I've seen.
Kanavi is the best jungler. You're right. I mean, I think
Kanavi's insanely good.
Kanavi is the best jungler. I think that SOFM is decent. I think Karsus is decent.
Peanuts had a good split so far. He's had a good split.
I think jungling might be the weakest role in China, but that's because every single other role in China is just incredible. ADC is every single one of them. It's hard to like what role is like just really that bad in China. Like their supports, they have PP God, they have what's his name from EDG?
Mako.
They have all these like supports who've really like either revitalized their career or they've made a career just starting to split. They have mid laners like Knight, they have mid laners like Rookie and what's it called?
Icon. Icon's not that bad.
Yeah, ADCs like Jackie Love and other stuff.
Best is mid, second best is AD, third is top, fourth support, and then their worst is jungle, I think.
Right,
Their junglers are actually kind of weak though. This split, I think their junglers are actually kind of weak. Not junglers. Well, junglers maybe, but if I want to make an argument, I would say their support position has been looking kind of lackluster recently.
PP God is like one of the best players in the league right now.
Outside of him and Mako and
I can
Ming,
I think it's. I mean, even Balong has been playing relatively well recently.
But he just came in. I can't count. He just came in. He hasn't been playing that much actually.
He's played like 5 games, 4.
Mm-hmm. Sword Art actually looks pretty good.
Sword Art looked really well with SOFM. Like I think that he really he was only a Bard one trick in the first split, which really frustrated me. But
because we know he's made for playmaking supports like Alistar and shit like that. But those are my jungling tier lists for the LCS 2020 summer split. I'll go over them once again. For those of you guys who are watching the VOD, I had no S tiers because the reason why I can't put Blabber in the S tier is because the recent games where he's looked pretty bad, and also before that there were some questionable games where he played Lee Sin and just randomly go on and just level 1 invade and die, and I was like, okay, that's not S tier material. But Closer, Blabber, A tier, B tier, Centaurn, Svenskaren, Dardock, and then you have C tier, Contracts, Smithy, Broxah, and then Wiggly and Spicker F. Just F. You can rearrange them. Doesn't matter. They both stink. I had Xmithie over Brox because Xmithie and Contracts are at least having an impact to how their teams are playing. Brox is just walking around on Graves and autoing things. If you want to give me a lot of money to do that, I can do that too.
You cannot do it. I disagree.
Santorin and Svenskeren. Okay, so I have... Actually, if you want to make an argument, you could put Dark over Svenskeren. You actually can. Because Svenskeren's had some pretty suspect weeks so far.
My problem with EU is the problem. Like, even their top tiers teams right now are struggling so much. Like, I think EU is definitely better than like NA, but they look significantly weaker than China right now. Like in every single aspect. Like even
Their only good team is what, Mad Lions right now?
As much as people don't want to say it, I think the LCK looks substantially better than like Damelin would probably wipe the floor with everybody in EU right now. Like
I think
so
probably.
China
What do you
is.
mean probably? Probably is no. They're going to do it. This
I
is
don't want to
not-
go that far. Like again, we've seen like EU is definitely one of the craftiest regions in the world in terms of just they're the most adaptable out of everybody, and I'll give them credit for that. But it's really just not looked great for them this split. I feel like they've struggled a lot recently. I think a lot of their top tier teams have really showed major flaws in their gameplay. Like I think Fnatic resurgitated for like a week, and then they just fell off the planet the next week. It's just like
because of LS. LS ruined this team.
but
LS
Shut
took to
up.
blame him for everything. If you think,
I think
because
China is
Bwipo and
above and
Nemesis are
beyond-
good friends with LS, so they blame him.
I think
Oh.
China are above and beyond every other region in terms of individual players, but in terms of
Yeah.
macro, in terms of
China-
drafting, man, like
what
it's
reason
fucking
do you say
terrible. China, in terms of individual players,
Mhm.
they're above and beyond every other region. But in terms of macro, in terms of drafting, fucking terrible.
I agree.
Awful.
I mean, they literally just fight until like somebody
But-
eventually gives up. Like they,
Well, you can
they-
say this. You can say this. They've always been consistent with that. They've never changed. At least they're
I mean-
consistent with doing that.
that's been their play style. for a
Consistently
long
terrible.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
The macro has never been this. The most macro oriented team they've really had in the last like 20 years has been
It was
like
EDG
like-
from 2015.
just like it like just
I
ever since
think
like
JDG has an essence of macro.
the reason that JDG has that is because essentially they have the slowest paced team in all of China, and they just are forced to play around team fights because of that. Like
Mhm.
they literally know they have the best teams, and if they make it to team fights, there's no one in the world that can beat them, and that's why they've kind of slowed down the pace of their game. And like they're literally like I don't know how they survive in China with how fast paced it is, but China can't do anything because of like again they've struggled a little bit recently. But for the most part, like they've succeeded so much in China just because of the talent that they've had on their roster.
A lot of people have said that, Nick. Riot killed macro basically.
Macro in like seasons ago, dude. It wasn't even last season. It wasn't this season. Like it's been gone.
Let's
Like, it's
say
been-
season
I don't want to pretend that.
after Worlds 2018, the macro that we know and love, or we used to play, is gone. I'd say after Worlds 2018. That's what I would say.
I want to point out the reason that everything is like this. 2018 is no
After Worlds 2018.
before.
That's what I
it
would
was,
say.
it was probably before that, to be completely honest.
Hmm.
Uh,
I guess that was like the biggest noticeable tournament where it was
Even
just
worse
like
than dragons, yeah, because you're essentially. I mean, the thing about dragons is you're not forced to fight those two dragons. The first two dragons are essentially
you can give those
something-
away.
you have the ability to not contest those. It's
Mhm.
just if you give that third one up, if you don't contest that third one, is the point where you're like literally forced to blind check something, and that's where you don't want to be in a situation like that. But giving up the first two dragons, like stats wise, they're terrible. Like each one of the dragons, besides maybe the Cloud Drake, is not really that good like of an impact early in. 22 minute Soul Drake, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's possible. But,
Like
you still-
literally, late game now is considerably 2 items. 30
But-
minutes is that's late game. Late game is 30 minutes.
Well, I'm just saying if you give up the dragons, I give up something for the dragons, you're losing a lot of gold around the map, and you're probably a little bit far behind. I mean, it doesn't happen because it doesn't happen as often as you can expect it to. But I mean, giving up objectives for a dragon around the map is not the best solution in the early game. I don't think you want to put too much effort. Like if it spends too much resources to contest that dragon, like if you're going to lose like a mass amount of what's it called? If you're going to expend a TP for it and there's no T fight, you don't want to do that. If you're going to lose plates for it in the top lane, it's worthless. Like, unless you're going to get a pretty decent team fight out of it, I don't think getting the first 2 dragons is the most essential thing. I think it's good to have. But, I mean, again, a lot of the teams aren't going to benefit too much from the 3% of resistances you're going to get from it. One item,
All right.
having 1 item is super early. If you are good at fighting, you auto-win. 1 item? What do you mean? Like, a lot of the players, I mean, ADC still is kind of worthless with 1 item. You mean like, I don't know, like, there's not too many, like, maybe Corki pops off with 1 item, but even then, now that he started building tier, it takes 2 items for him to get tier. I mean, get Trinity Force.
All right, so the last thing I want to cover before we go, because I'm kind of tired, is Worlds 2020 is going to happen. They're going to do a bubble system like the NBA. So, yeah, at least we get Worlds this year.
I mean, they've been doing that for the past, like, 6 months, dude. It's not surprising.
It's definitely, like, I just never could see them canceling Worlds. The only reason why I said they might have was because it was just too bad. Like, we were at, like, the peak COVID moment. So that's why I assumed they would cancel it. But, you know, at least the games will... Right? Thank you, USA. But, at least the games will be played on stage. A lot of people want that, so some teams might be playing better on stage. So you might see C9 making World Semis, right?
Why did China... I'm
gonna win.
Riot choose China over Korea?
It's the 10th anniversary. And
So
Tencent owns League. And Tencent owns China.
Yeah, but we created
Oh my God,
HTMNA. If we're going to go down that path of the 10th anniversary, like, what did China have to do with it? China wasn't there.
Viewer based. That's all it is.
That's all it is. That's really what it is.
Did I say 10? Oh my God, Lord. Tencent owns China. No, Tencent owns Riot. Sorry about that, guys. It's late.
And China owns Tencent. That's how it works.
All right, so that's it, guys. If you guys are watching this as a VOD, just make sure you like the video, comment down below. This is every single Monday. That's
Today's
always
Tuesday.
well, would have been every single Monday, but these guys were like, I'm busy having sex with girls. Like, come on. You know.
Yeah, I don't think I said that.
Yeah.
That wouldn't make much sense.
But, you know, it's been fun having KG on, and hopefully Mr. Buff Guy wants to have him on more.
What?
What? All right, so see you guys later. Like,
I'll
comment,
have
subscribe.
myself on more? Okay.
Like, comment, subscribe. Most of all, enjoy. I'm a Nightwing. Whale Life Esports is signing out, guys. See you guys next Monday or Tuesday. Most likely it's Monday. This week was just really busy for me. But yeah, hopefully C9 can go 2-0 and get out of their slump. That's all I can ask for. Hopefully they can play for first place. They can only play for first place if TL and TSM start losing their games this week, and TL and TSM face each other. So, just saying. And Doublelift has a hot girlfriend. Just want to throw that in there.
Thank you for throwing that in there.
Yeah.
Just kidding. See you guys.
I would know.
Goodbye. Have a good day. Peace.
Yeah.
See you, man. My big